Hello, I hope that everybody is happy and above all healthy and stay safe. And I understand that now here in Arizona, we are finally at the stage of, I believe as of today, and tell me if this is wrong, but Eddie called me yesterday and said as of today we are required to wear a mask whenever we're out. So yay. Thank you for that, Mayor, whatever her name is. You can tell I'm not politically inclined. I don't even know who our mayor is. I do know it's a woman. So I like that. Anyway, so here we go. We got another story. This I am going to call Purple Buttons. This is not exactly in sequence. This happened when I was maybe 4 or 5, because my mom and I were living together in that little, you can't call it a cottage, it was more like a place where you stored your tools. But my father was missing, my French grandmother was nowhere to be found. My mother did not know where her mother was or her other sister. So it was just my mom and I, and she hadn't found work yet, but she had that dalliance with that nice Canadian. And one day my mom said, you know what, let's visit. I heard that a friend of mine opened a tiny little store. So that was really fun. We went across the river and we walked to where one of the main roads was, and there was this tiny little store. I mean, it looked more like a big closet, but oh my God, was it fun to get in there. She had what they used to call a notions store. She sold things like buttons and knitting needles and crochet hooks. There was very little in this little store. There were all these little drawers, and they'd have a little button on the front, and then if you pulled it out, there would be, 5, 10, 20. So those two were having a conversation, and I was having a gay old time looking at all these beautiful buttons. And one really stuck out. It was a little glass button, and it was purple. I really liked that. So I thought, well, there's a whole bunch of them in that little drawer, so I could probably take 1 or 2 of those. So I continued my search for other buttons that I really liked, and there were a couple that were white. They almost looked scalloped, and they had like a little flower painted on it, and I thought, oh my God, I like that too. So I ended up with maybe 5 or 6 little buttons, and I put them in my little pocket. And then when my mom was all done visiting with her friend, we started to walk back to the ferry boat, and there was a little bakery. And my mom and I had stopped there before. I liked these people. There was an elderly couple, and I would go in and say, what can I do? Can I help? Because if I helped, they would go in the kitchen to see if they might have some cake crumbs. Then I got this little pointed bag that looked like an ice cream cone, except it was paper, and it had cake crumbs in it. So I said, Mama, can we stop there? Because they always have cake crumbs for me. She said, yes, we'll stop there. So we came in, and the lady that was there, she was very sweet. She always said, oh, there's my little sunshine. Oh, come here. I have to give you a big hug. And then she'd say, Heinz, come on here. Heinz was her husband's name. Come here, because look who's here. It's that little girl that we love so much. So there was all this hugging going on and patting me on my head and on my back. And they'd always say, you know what? You are the best little girl. Nobody else is sweet like you. You are the absolute best. And Heinz would always say, yeah, and Mrs. Freiman, you better be careful, because I'm going to take her one day when you're not looking, and then we're going to keep her. Aren't we, Ursula? Because we want a little girl like this, don't we? And he'd say, okay, so what are you going to do for work today? I said, well, what would you like me to do? Do you want me to go and do dishes? Or I could sweep the floor, but I can do something, can't I, Mama? Can we stay for a little bit? Because you know what they do? And my mother said, yes, I know. If you do something, you get cake crumbs. And I said, oh, but that's okay. If you don't have any cake crumbs, I'll sweep your floor anyway. You don't have to give me cake crumbs. And they all three, they were all laughing. And then he took my hand and he took me back in the kitchen and he said, okay, here, there's a whole bunch of dishes and look what I did. And I said, what did you do? And he said, I made you a little footstool because you can't really reach. But now, he said, look, if you climb up there, you can actually do the dishes. And I said, oh, great, okay, I'll do that. Is that what you want me to do? And he said, well, it's your choice. You can either sweep the floor or you can do the dishes, because he said, those two, they're friends. And you know what's going to happen now. They're going to talk and talk and talk. And in a minute, Ursula is going to call me and she's going to say, Heinz, bring us a cup of coffee. We're having a coffee clutch. So he said, you can do whatever you want because this is going to be a while. So I said, well, I'll do the dishes then. So I did, and when they were done, my mother said, okay, it's time for us to go home. And oh my God, I could not believe it. They gave me my little pointed bag with the cake crumbs, but he gave my mother a loaf of bread. He said, I don't know what happened with this, but he said, look, it's all cracked on one side, so we can't sell it. So I'm going to give it to you. And I mean, that was unbelievable to get a whole loaf of bread, So my mother was just over the moon. She said, look, isn't this wonderful? So anyway, my mom was carrying the bread home and I was all proud with my little bag of cake crumbs. And then when we got to our little cottage, I said, look, Mama, come here. You have to look at this. And she said, what? I said, come here. I said, here. And I went in my pocket and I said, look, I have purple buttons, the little glass ones, and I have the little flower buttons. And she said, what? I don't understand. I didn't see her give you buttons. And I said, well, no, she didn't. They were just all in the drawers. And so there were a lot of them. So I took 5, or no, wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it was pretty good. I mean, I wasn't going to school, but obviously I could count. And she said, but Aranka, that's a store. You can't take things. And I said, but it was just in the drawers. And I said, what do you mean you can't take? And she said, you have to buy it. It's a store. It's not free. She said to me, we're going to have to go back. And I said, oh yes, right now, we better go. I did not know that. If I would have known that, but I said, really? Are you sure? And she said, yes. And I said, okay, well, do we have time to go back right now? Because I don't want her to think I'm a thief, because I don't want to be a thief. And do we have money to buy those? And my mother said, no, I'm sorry, we don't. And she said, let's just go back right now and we'll return them. So I started to cry and I said, I'm really sorry. I didn't know that. You didn't tell me. Is he snoring? Is my dog snoring? I know the story might not be interesting to you, my dear, but I hope it's interesting to the people that are watching. Oh, that was cute. Anyway, we went back and her girlfriend said, you are so precious to come back, to bring them back. And she said, which ones are your favorite? I said, oh, those purple glass ones. And she said, well, you know what? I'm going to give you those 2 purple ones. You can keep those. And what was really sweet, my mother, not too long after that, once my dad showed back up, and he went on the black market and he got my mother a sewing machine, because she said, I can really get fabrics very inexpensively when they're on sale, remnants, and I really need a sewing machine. My mother made me a blouse, a white blouse, and my grandma, it had like a round collar that was scalloped. It was very sweet. And my grandma embroidered purple flowers on the front, in the collar, on the left and the right. And the blouse had long sleeves and cuffs. And she embroidered the purple flower on the cuff. And my mom used those purple little glass buttons that I had. And I was just absolutely over the moon. So she went back to, hello, now we have a hummingbird, that's nice. So we went back to the store, because this was a friend of hers, and my mother said, I need some kind of white buttons. And she said, oh, those are the buttons I gave to the little girl. There was a long time ago. You kept him? And my mother said, no, I didn't keep him. She kept him. She always said, no, those are my special buttons, and someday they're going to be on a blouse or a dress or something. And a friend of hers said, let me see if I still have those purple buttons. I'm not sure. By that time, she had a lot more drawers, a lot more buttons. And she looked and looked, and she said, I don't know, it looks like I don't have them anymore. And then she said, oh no, wait a minute, here they are. And she said, let me look. And she had 5 buttons left, and she gave them to my mom. And so my mother put the 5 buttons on the front of it. And oh, I just thought that was so beautiful. My white beautiful blouse with the purple buttons, and my grandma was very good at embroidery, and it was really very, it was special. I really liked it. And that is my story for today. Thank you very much. Stay safe, and I love you.